Hi everybody, welcome to the TechHub.training ALTERYX and TABLEAU Unemployment Exploration Monthly Challenge Solution video. So, let's just dive right in. Let's pull up the ALTERYX file. So, from here I'm assuming that y'all have had a chance to look at the data files, and we can look at them right here. Let's just run this. So here at the beginning of the workflow, we've got our imports, right? I'm just importing the data from each of these unemployment level files, CSV files. And as we can see, we got the date and then the unemployment level for each state. And as you can tell, it's not in a very useful format. It's difficult to read. Obviously, the title needs to be cleaned up. But ultimately, what we're going to want is a row that says date, state, and unemployment level, right? And the same, it looks the same for each of the regions. And that's where the next step comes in. We're going to transform the data, or transpose it. And as you can see, what comes out is the date, and this is the name, it's the state, and then the value. And what that really does is it just takes this row of columns, right, and it makes it a data field. And then here we're gonna throw in a formula just to add the region in, and you can see what the region is based on the name of the file that the data is coming from. And so that's why I threw this in just before coming over to the union. So because each of these files is formatted completely the same, just with different data, we can come in here with the union, and what it's going to do is it just stacks each one of these on top of each other. So now, instead of 4 different data sets, we have one data set with all the same columns. And then next, I think it's about time that we just throw a formula in, pull the state, or pull the word unemployed out of the state. And the way that I did this was just by using the right formula. We know that the state abbreviation is the last 2 letters of each one of these data fields, and so we can just take the right 2 characters from this field. All right, and now let's drop down. So we've cleaned the unemployment level data set up well enough to go ahead and bring in the unemployment rate information. And so here's the import for the unemployment rate CSV. And as you can see, this data is also dirty. So we have what is labeled as the region name, but we can see that that's just the state that is associated with these data points. And so we're going to throw another transpose in here. And what we're doing is we're going to keep region name as a key column, and then we're going to move all of those column data fields, which was just the date. That's going to become a data point in a row, and then the value associated with that. And so we have name, value, but it's really just date and unemployment rate associated with this state. All right, and now because we have key columns that we need, we're going to come into this join, and we're going to join the unemployment level data with the unemployment rate data. And I can show you how this is configured. So let me pull this over. Okay, so we're going to join by specific fields. So the left side is this, and so we're going to join date on name, because the name field in this data set was the date field, as you can see. And so then we're gonna join name with region name, and name here is the state, region name here is the state. So we're gonna join the two like that, and here I'm just gonna take the left, I renamed it date, renamed that state, renamed the value unemployed persons, which is just the employment level. We're going to keep the region, and then I'm not going to take the region name or this column, which is the date, in the unemployment rate data set, because we already have those up here, and so it would just be a duplicate data column. And then we're going to rename this value to unemployment rate. And so as you can see, this is the output. We've got date, state, unemployed persons, region, and unemployment rate. And this is actually the data file that we want for our state unemployment CSV. And so we can go ahead and output that now. And then we need to keep going to be able to get our region unemployment and our national unemployment. So let's look at select. I did this because we need to, I wonder, I could have just changed them here to values, but here I changed the data to double from strings, so we could do some math computations with them. And so here we're going to calculate the employment population, because the unemployment rates that we have are state levels. And so what we need to do is we need to be able to get regional and national levels from these. And so the way that we're going to, unemployment rate is simply the number of unemployed persons divided by the total employment population. And so what we're going to do is we're going to calculate what that employment population is for each state on a particular reporting date. And then what we're going to do is for the regional, we're going to summarize by just the region. So it's basically going to sum all of the unemployed individuals for a region on a particular reporting date and employment population. And then in this next formula, we're just going to calculate the rate from that, which is essentially just the unemployed persons divided by the employment population. And then I multiplied it by 100, so it would display as a percentage essentially. So it's 9.3%. This top one is 9.3%. And then remove the employment population from the data, so we don't need that anymore. And then we're going to output the regional data. And essentially the same thing, you do the exact same thing, except for the national. You're not going to group by region as well. You're only going to group by date, because we want to aggregate it in totality for a particular date. And then here's the ultimate input or output table. You're just going to have the date column, unemployed persons, and unemployment rate. So that is the ALTERYX workflow. Each of these data files are going to be outputs. And then the next portion of the challenge is this, to create a Tableau dashboard that visualizes the data. And so here's a copy of my dashboard, but let's start with the importing the data. Let's look at the data source tab. Alright, so I connected it to this state unemployment CSV, and as you can see, here's the data that I imported, but then I made a relationship with this region unemployment data that I also imported on date equals date, region equals region. And then I also imported national unemployment, and I made another relationship on date equals date there. All right, and so that's the relationship that will relate the entire data set together. And then here's the dashboard. What I did here was I created a chart that displayed national unemployment, the unemployed persons. So it's showing, and you can see the legend up here in the top right corner of the chart. Midwest region is blue, and so Midwest region unemployed persons is at that level. And that's the percentage of national unemployment. And then we have the total national unemployed persons, which is basically national unemployed persons is this level right here. But we can see kind of how each region stacks into that as a proportion. And then down here we have unemployment rates. I have each one of the region's rates, but I also threw in the national unemployment rate as this gray line that kind of runs through, just so we can see how each of the region's unemployment rates stacks up to the national unemployment rate, right? So as you can see, the South region here in the beginning of 2020 was lower than the rest of the country for that time period. And then now we're gonna come over here to and here's just a simple date filter for this chart if you want to play around with that. Now let's look at this chart. So basically this chart right now, it's showing the state the unemployed person, like the unemployment level by state. And so there's for reporting date of 2022 Q3, there were 16,000 unemployed persons in Alaska. And here's the kind of the chart, and so you can kind of easily tell that California had the most unemployed individuals. It's 861,000, and you know, we can double check that here in the table that just kind of gives you the raw data right there, and it's sorted by unemployed persons because we have this parameter, the state displayed value parameter, selected to unemployed persons. So let's go ahead and look at that, and let's change it to unemployed rate. So now if we look at the unemployment rate, so when I select that parameter, it shifts what is shown on this chart. And so now Alaska is showing a unemployment rate of 4.5% in Q3 2022. And obviously Arizona has the highest at 6.9%, and that's reflected here. And as you can see, this table changes sorting based on the value that is selected here. So in descending order. So Arizona has the highest unemployment rate, so it's going to be at the top. But then when I switch back to unemployed persons, California jumps to the top because now we're sorting in descending order on the unemployed persons. And here, to just dive in to that a little bit more, we can jump to this, and I'll show you what I did to make that happen. So here's the parameter that I made. Just named it, and then unemployed persons. Then we've got the two values, unemployed persons, unemployment rate. And so that's all you have to do to start. But then you have to create a calculated field that is based on the parameter. And so this is the basically saying, all right, if this parameter that we have selected equals unemployed persons, then the data point that is going to be contained within this parameter value is unemployed persons. Otherwise, it'll be the unemployment rate. And so that's how we're able to shift it between, shift these charts between kind of what is displayed here. It's because we are basically it's the displayed value that is kind of, or the parameter value that is controlling, that is the data point in here. And so it's not the unemployed persons pill, it's not the unemployment rate. We put parameter value in so that when we swap these, it'll change what is shown. And it just gives the user a little bit more visibility in what's going on. You know, you're able to show the user a lot more data in a small dashboard than if you had multiple charts. It can be a little overwhelming sometimes, and so I like to do this when creating charts. Makes it also very interactive with the user. And so, but that's the challenge. I hope y'all enjoyed making these charts. I'd love to see if you created some different visualizations than myself. I'd love to see them. Just throw a comment on the challenge on TechHub.training, and hope you enjoy the challenge. Thanks.